Hey Fearless Gamers, it's the wild card from Fearless Games here. And I thought I should kick off some Battletech videos that I want to do for you all by talking about weapon systems, because I could talk to you about the different mechs, but aside from their size and their armor, the big difference is the type of weapons they're employing. And not so much because a light mech has different weapons than a heavy mech. No, it's more so that the weapon systems are the same throughout the weight classes, but to kind of get a sense of mech weaponry and why certain mechs are a certain way when we start talking about mechs later on is all based on their weapons. Mech combat is all about blowing up the opponent, right? And you need weapons to do that. And there's variety of weapons in warfare today. So there's going to be a variety of weapons in warfare in Battletech. So my thought process is going over the weapon systems first will give you kind of the base knowledge of what weapon systems are available to every mech, provided that the mech is able to carry a weapon system. Some weapon systems may be too big for a light mech, for example, but there's a reason why these weapon systems exist, and I'm going to go into that I'm going to go into an overview of these weapon systems right now. So Battletech has 3 weapon categories for their mechs: ballistic, missile, and energy. Now, I'm going to go over missiles first. Before I do that, I want to say I'm going to the whole point of this is to give you a breakdown of how to kind of understand what the weapon system means, when you're looking at it. And I'm not going to go into damage per se or anything like that. I'm just going to give you a clue as how it works. Also, some of these weapon systems have what's called a minimum range. I'm only going to really talk about it for one weapon system, but other ones may have it. I'm not necessarily going to mention it for every single time, just because to save time. But minimum range is something that's in Battletech, and the way that works is if your enemy is closer than the minimum range, then that weapon that has that minimum range can't fire at it. It's too close. So, missile systems. They're broken down to short range, medium range, and long range missiles. SRM, MRM, and LRM for short, respectively. So, short range missiles, they work. Well, before I say how they work by you shoot them at your opponent and they blow up. But short range missiles are direct fire missiles. They do not lock on. They have no guidance system unless they're streak. There is a variant called streak SRM, works the same way, but they have a bit of a guidance to them. The short range missiles are designed to be short range because they sacrifice distance for damage. And the way missile systems work is we first got it broken down by range, SRM, MRM, and LRM, and then the number. There's a number next to it, and that number signifies how many missiles are being fired per salvo. So with the SRM, you have 2, 4, and 6. That means the SRM-2 fires 2 missiles, the SRM-4 fires 4, and the SRM-6 fires 6. All of these missiles, they're basically the same missiles, just more being fired at once. So 2, 4, and 6 have the same range. And the missiles have the same damage, but it's damage per missile. To give you a little bit of insight of how missile systems work, they're a bit more complex than your standard damage tables for things, so they're more of an advanced weaponry, which is why the basic training mechs don't have any missile systems on them. But the damage is per missile, and they do have a spread to them, so one missile system may hit the right arm, the other one may hit the left arm, for example, if you're firing SRM-2s, just as an example. So 2, 4, and 6, that's how many missiles are being fired per salvo. The MRM, the medium range missiles, they're a direct fire system as well. They don't have any type of locking system that I'm aware of, and their claim to fame is that they have a compact design, so they're able to fit more missiles in and fire more missiles per salvo. So the MRM start at a base of 10 missiles being fired, and then go 10, 20, 30, and 40. That's a lot of missiles potentially hitting your target, which can add up to a lot of damage. And just FYI, I'm not going to go over any specialty ammunition or anything like that that may exist for certain things. This is just a basic rundown. And finally, your last is the long-range missile system, the LRM. Now, these missile systems do lock on. They can lock on. They're capable of indirect fire, and they're designed to be a bit more accurate, so they don't spread as much. That type of thing. Um, the thing with LRMs, in general, is they tend to have a minimum range to them. So this is one of the weapons that would have it. But they, being that they do lock on, they fire and direct, they're meant to be support weapon systems. They benefit from things like fire control systems, like the Artemis 4 and stuff like that, that make them more accurate, or may do something else to help bolster them. So that's the LRM, and that's the missile systems. Ballistic weaponry. Ballistic weaponry encompasses the machine gun, the autocannon, and the Gauss rifle. The machine gun is just your basic anti-personnel gun. It's really not something to use against mechs. Can you? Yes. It doesn't really do that much damage. The autocannon is kind of the main weapon system for anti-mech combat. The autocannon works a little differently in terms of how they look. Like they too, it says autocannon and then a number after it, but it's not like the it's not quite like the missile system. The autocannon says autocannon 2, 5, 10, or 20. This basically tells you how much damage you'll be dealing, and it also gives you an idea of the range. And how that works is, the smaller the number, the longer the range for the weapon. So autocannon 2 has a much longer range than autocannon 20, for example. But the autocannon 20 deals a lot more damage than the autocannon 2. These have variants, though. These have the LBX autocannon, which fires more like a shotgun firing buckshot. It has more of a spread to it, which can fit some people's tactical ideas. Then you have the Ultra autocannon, which is my personal favorite of the autocannons. It's a quick firing autocannon system. That's all. And the LBX and the Ultra go 2, 5, 10, and 20 as well. And then you have the Gatling rotary autocannon, which is a super fast firing mechanism for the autocannon. It only does 2 and 5 because its tactic is you fire so much so quickly that you don't need the higher damage gun, because you're hitting them so many times with a 2 or a 5 that it doesn't matter. But it suffers from jamming potentials because it is a Gatling type rotary autocannon. And that's the autocannons. Now, if the autocannon is your main system for ballistic weaponry for anti-mech, then the Gauss rifle would be your sniper rifle. The Gauss rifle has good range and good damage. Fluff-wise, it's a big electromagnet hurtling a piece of metal really fast at your opponent. So that would be like the sniper rifle equivalent for mechs, would be the Gauss rifle. The Gauss rifle has a light and a heavy variant, I do believe. I don't know 100%, but I believe I have seen them, at the very least in video games, the MechWarrior games. And generally, when something has a light designation or a heavy designation, it works like this. Light designation means longer range, less damage. Heavy designation means less range, more damage. That's usually how it works. So with that being said, both the missile system and the ballistic weapon system require ammunition to be fired. So you need to have ammunition in the mech. That can lead to ammunition explosions, which is something I'll get into in a different video. And it also means that it's an expendable resource, and the longer you're in the field, the better chance you have of running dry and having weapon systems that are out of ammo, and therefore the mech being less effective because most or all of its weapons could be out of ammunition. That's why we have energy weapons. Energy weapons are basically where it's at when it comes to staying in the field forever. Energy weapons, basically the way they work is they generate the mech generates the energy required to fire it. They don't have ammunition, which is good, but they generate a lot of heat because of it. Now, there's 3 different types of energy weapons. I put the flamethrower type weapon that mechs have in here. It's really an anti-infantry weapon, not so great against mechs. It can produce more heat on the mech, which can really tax a mech, but that's about it for that. Then you have the particle projector cannon and the laser. Now, the particle projector cannon is probably my favorite energy weapon. It's PPC for short. I like to think of it as man-made lightning. Fluff-wise, it actually has recoil for an energy weapon, which is kind of odd, and it also has a minimum range for an energy weapon, which is kind of odd. It deals good damage, has decent range to it. It has an extended range variant, which means it can shoot even farther, and then it has, I believe, a snub nose variant, which works a little differently. And I think there's a heavy variant to it, but I'm not entirely sure. And lastly, laser weapons. Laser weapons are kind of the grunt weapon of energy. There's different variations of them. There's so many different types of lasers that it's not worth getting into too in depth. They all kind of function the same way, and you can think about it like this. The name tells you how much heat it'll generate, how much range it has, how much damage it has. Small laser, medium laser, and a large laser. Small laser has short range, generates a little amount of heat, does a little damage. Medium, obviously middle of the road, and large does a lot of damage, long range, and generates a lot of heat. So that's how lasers work. If it's the extended range variant of lasers, it's still the same thing, only all of those lasers have a bit more range to them. The pulse variant, it fires pulses of laser beams, so it does more damage than your standard laser. The heavy laser generates a lot more heat, but does even more damage. Then there's like X-pulse and micro lasers, which are like super small laser. So that's the laser family in a nutshell. And that's your basic weapon systems in a nutshell. I think there might be plasma in Battletech now, but I could be wrong. I'm just giving the very basics, the stuff you're going to see, I would say, in 90% of all the mechs out there. Is some type of autocannon, or Gauss rifle, or energy type weapon like laser or PPC, or some missiles. And you're going to see that throughout the entire weight class, whether it's in a sphere or a clan. And without going too in-depth into the differences between Innisphere and Clan Tech tends to be better. So Clan Tech may have the benefit of either maybe dealing more damage perhaps, or having a longer range, generating less heat, or maybe not having a minimum range to it. It all depends on the weapon system that's of a clan variety. So everything I said when it comes to clan weaponry maybe still should work for the most part, but certain things may be different. A weapon system that has a minimum range, for example, might not if it's a clan variety. But in general, if they generate less heat, it's still going to be the small laser generating the least amount of heat, with the large laser generating the most. You just have to look at the weapon systems to see the difference when it comes to Clan Tech. And I'll go on to clans versus Innisphere stuff in a different video later on. But anyway, fearless gamers, that's the weapon systems of Battletech. Those combined give you your different types of mechs. Now, of course, on top of that, the mechs have weight classes themselves. They have their own speed and armor and everything, but this is how the mechs deal damage. Regardless if they're light mechs or assault mechs, these are the weapon systems that they are equipped with to destroy each other. And that's it, fearless gamers. So if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comment section. If you're a Battletech player, or even a MechWarrior player, if you play the video games, it doesn't matter. What's your favorite weapon system in Battletech? My favorite weapon system has got to be the particle projector cannon, and then followed by the Gauss rifle and ultra autocannons kind of together, and then third would be pulse lasers. So if you have your favorite, drop it in the comment section. And until next time, fearless gamers, take it easy.